We all know Harry Potter ended up with Ginny Weasley, but what if they didn't? So, today we're going to marry Harry off to every single witch, and Hermione is only the start. We're covering every notable witch from Cho Chang to Narcissa Malfoy, and we're going to figure out what each of those marriages actually looks like. Pure, unhinged wizarding matrimony from start to finish. Before we start playing matchmaker with the boy who lived, we need to understand something. Harry's love life is one of the most debated topics in all of fiction. And we're not talking about some niche corner of the internet. Harry Potter is on the verge of overtaking the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe as the biggest fandom on Archive of our own, or AO3 as fans call it. There are over 17 million fanfiction works on that site alone, and Harry Potter has 11 entries on the most popular ships list. The top spot doesn't even involve a witch, by the way. It belongs to Drarry, Harry and Draco Malfoy, at 82,000 fics and counting. Romance is the single most popular genre of Potter fanfiction, with over 52,000 stories dedicated to it on fanfiction.net. People care deeply about who Harry ends up with, and honestly, even J.K. Rowling isn't sure she got it right the first time. So, let's start with where the story actually ends. Ginny Weasley, the canon wife, the one Rowling spent 7 books building toward, even if half the audience didn't notice until book 6. In Rowling's own words, Ginny is tough, not in an unpleasant way, but she's gutsy. He needs to be someone who can stand the demands of being with Harry Potter, because he's a scary boyfriend in a lot of ways. He's a marked man. I think she's funny, and I think that she's very warm and compassionate. These are all things that Harry requires in his ideal woman. The foreshadowing was actually brilliant if you caught it. When Harry smells Amortentia, the most powerful love potion in existence, he picks up Treacle Tart, the woody smell of the broomstick handle, and something flowery he thinks he might have smelled at the burrow. That flowery scent is Ginny's perfume. Rowling was telling us who Harry loved before Harry even knew it himself. And in what might be the most devastating detail in the entire series, right before Harry walks into the Forbidden Forest to let Voldemort kill him in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, his last thoughts aren't of Ron or Hermione or Dumbledore. They're of Ginny and the feel of her lips on his. That's the gold standard. That's what every other pairing has to measure up to. So, let's see who else could have worn the ring. Hermione Granger, the one Rowling deliberately steered away from, and then publicly admitted she probably shouldn't have. In an interview that sent shockwaves through the fandom, Rowling confessed, "I wrote the Hermione-Ron relationship as a form of wish fulfillment. That's how it was conceived, really." She went further, saying, "In some ways, Hermione and Harry are a better fit." She specifically pointed to the tent scenes in Deathly Hallows, when Ron abandons them and it's just Harry and Hermione, alone, hunted, desperate, and still choosing each other every single day. Emma Watson herself agreed, saying she wondered whether Ron would have really been able to make Hermione happy. So, what does a Harry and Hermione marriage look like? Well, terrifyingly efficient. These two would have run the wizarding world like a machine. Hermione becomes Minister for Magic and Canon. Harry becomes Head Auror. And together, they'd be an absolute power couple. The intellectual and the instinctual. The planner and the improviser. There's a reason this is the most popular alternative pairing in all of Potter fan fiction. And a reason it makes a large chunk of the fandom genuinely angry that it didn't happen. The chemistry was always there. Rowling just chose to call it friendship. But would it actually work long-term? Here's the thing. Harry doesn't need someone who matches his intensity. He needs someone who breaks it. Hermione would drag him into causes, campaigns, reform movements, and she'd never let him rest. Harry spent his entire childhood being told he was nothing, and his entire adolescence being told he was everything. So, he might just need someone who lets him be a normal person once in a while. That's not Hermione's specialty. She loves Harry deeply, but she loves being right almost as much. And Harry has never in his life enjoyed being told what to do. Still, on paper, top-tier match, no question. Now, let's talk about the one that actually happened first, Cho Chang. Harry's first crush, first kiss, first complete romantic disaster. He first laid eyes on her in 3rd year and started blushing immediately. By 4th year, he's asking her to the Yule Ball, but she's already going with Cedric Diggory. And then Cedric dies right in front of Harry. Let that sink in. Oh, you already did? Okay. His romantic rival is murdered by Voldemort. And now Harry has to date a girl who is actively grieving the boy who died because he was standing next to Harry, and was much better looking than Harry. Their brief relationship in Order of the Phoenix is honestly one of the most realistic portrayals of teenage romance in the entire series. It's awkward, painful, full of miscommunication, and absolutely doomed. Cho can't look at Harry without thinking of Cedric. Harry can't deal with her crying. And neither of them has the emotional vocabulary to navigate this because they're 15. And they had no chemistry at all. A marriage between Harry and Cho would be haunted, literally and figuratively. Every anniversary, every milestone, Cedric's ghost would sit between them. Neither of them is a bad person. Trauma just doesn't care about wedding vows. Cho needed someone who wasn't a living reminder of the worst night of her life, and Harry needed someone who could look at him without seeing a gravestone. Speaking of that Yule Ball, Harry's actual date deserves a word. Pavarti Patil, the only witch on this list who showed up on his arm and then spent the evening watching him sulk. Harry asked her in a panic after Cho turned him down, and Pavarti said yes to the most famous boy in school, probably expecting at least one decent dance. She got the opening waltz performed with all the enthusiasm of a hostage, and then Harry parked himself at the table and stared at Cho for the rest of the night. Pavarti eventually gave up and went off with a boy from Beauxbatons, which under the circumstances counts as self-respect. Now here's the embarrassing part. Pavarti was genuinely excited about the date. She had giggled about Harry with Lavender since 3rd year, and the reality turned out to be a boy who treated her like a piece of furniture with earrings. And yet, a marriage here has more going for it than the Yule Ball suggests. Pavarti joined Dumbledore's army and stayed for the Battle of Hogwarts, when plenty of students evacuated. So, the courage requirement is covered. She's warm and endlessly social, the kind of witch who would pull Harry into the comfortable, gossipy life he never had. The real obstacle is her devotion to divination. Harry spent his adolescence being hunted by a prophecy, and Pavarti thinks Trelawney is a visionary. Every family breakfast would come with a tea leaf reading predicting his death. And Harry has heard quite enough of that, thank you very much. Next up, and this is where it gets really interesting, Luna Lovegood, the pairing of the fan community lovingly calls Huna, and honestly, one of the most emotionally compelling alternatives in the entire series. Harry and Luna are mirrors of each other in ways nobody else in the series can match. Both lost parents, both witnessed death at a young age, both were outcasts who understood the true nature of people even as teenagers. Luna never treated Harry like a celebrity or a weapon. She just treated him like Harry. And in return, Harry was one of a few people who never made fun of her. He defended her. He included her. He genuinely liked being around her. Their scenes together carry this incredible calm. When everything in Harry's world is chaos and war and prophecy, Luna is the person who makes him feel like things might actually be okay. She always had exactly the right nugget of wisdom at exactly the right moment, delivered in that dreamy, matter-of-fact way that made Harry actually listen. A Harry and Luna marriage would be quiet, peaceful, and weird in the best possible way. Luna would drag Harry on expeditions to find Crumplehorn Snorkax, and he would just go, because after years of fighting dark wizards, chasing imaginary creatures with the woman you love sounds like paradise. They'd raise strange, wonderful children who believed in impossible things, and Harry, for the first time in his life, would feel truly at peace. The only reason it doesn't work is that Rowling saw Luna as too ethereal, too detached from the grounded warmth Harry craves, but honestly, the fans might be right on this one. Now, Fleur Delacour, the Quarter Vila, Triwizard champion, and easily the most glamorous option on this list. Harry and Fleur don't have much of a direct relationship in canon. They compete in the tournament together, and later she marries his surrogate brother Bill Weasley. In the world of fanfiction, though, countless shippers insist Fleur is actually the ideal match for Harry. And the logic isn't as crazy as it sounds. Fleur is one of a few characters who truly understands what Harry went through during the Triwizard Tournament. She competed alongside him. She felt the danger and the political manipulation and the terror. She watched Cedric die too, in a sense. That shared trauma is a powerful foundation. A Harry and Fleur marriage would be a fiery, passionate thing and probably involve a lot of arguments in two languages. Fleur is strong-willed, brave, and fiercely loyal, and she proved that when she stayed with Bill after Greyback mauled his face, telling Molly Weasley essentially to back off because she loved him, scars and all. That same loyalty directed at Harry, he'd never doubt for a single second that someone had his back. The downside is that Harry would spend every social event watching other wizards drool over his wife's Vila charm, and given his track record with jealousy and Half-Blood Prince, that might not end well. Now here's where we go off the deep end. Nymphadora Tonks. She's an Auror, a member of the Order of the Phoenix, a metamorph magus who can change her appearance at will, and she canonically ends up with Remus Lupin. But what if she didn't? Tonks and Harry share a natural rapport. She's fun, clumsy, irreverent, everything Harry doesn't get enough of in his life. She'd treat being married to the Chosen One as one big joke, and Harry would love that. She'd trip over the furniture at their wedding, turn her nose into a duckbill to make their kids laugh, and remind Harry every single day that being special doesn't mean you can't be ridiculous. The age gap is notable but not insurmountable. In a wizarding world where people live well past 100, a few years barely registers. I could definitely see her as a cougar. The real issue is that Tonks needs someone who needs her back in a specific way. Lupin needed her to pull him out of his self-loathing. Harry doesn't carry that same wound, so he'd appreciate Tonks deeply, but he might not need her the way she deserves to be needed. Every witch so far at least waited for Harry to make the first move. Romilda Vane skipped that step. She looked at the Chosen One and decided consent was more of a guideline. Romilda was a fourth-year Gryffindor when Harry became the wizarding world's most eligible teenager, and she pursued him with the patience of a big-game hunter. First, she tried to lure him into her train compartment, and when that failed, she escalated to chocolate cauldrons spiked with love potion, which is attempted mind control in a heart-shaped box. The plan misfired spectacularly. Ron found the chocolates on Harry's floor months later and ate the whole box, falling so violently in love with Romilda that Harry had to drag him to Slughorn for an antidote. That same visit ended with Ron drinking poisoned mead, meaning Romilda's little Valentine scheme nearly killed her crush's best friend, without her ever finding out about it. Fun fact, Romilda once asked Ginny whether Harry really had a hippogriff tattooed across his chest. Ginny confirmed it was a Hungarian horntail, because Ginny understood marketing. A marriage to Romilda would be a security nightmare. This is a woman whose opening move was chemical warfare on the heart, and matrimony would only give her better access to Harry's food. He would spend the rest of his life having a house elf taste test his pumpkin juice, and Harry knows better than anyone where love potions lead, since Voldemort exists precisely because Merope Gaunt dosed a muggle. Marrying the girl who tried the same trick on him would be a very strange way to honor that lesson. Now, I'm putting on my flame-retardant robes because it's time for the wilder option the fandom has cooked up. Daphne Greengrass. You might be thinking, who? Exactly. Daphne is mentioned exactly once in the entire canon, during an OWL exam. That's it, one time. And yet, she's become one of the most popular fanfiction pairings for Harry in the entire fandom. The fan community built a whole character for her from scratch, dubbing her the Ice Queen of Slytherin, a pureblood who secretly disagrees with Voldemort's ideology. The appeal is obvious. It's a Romeo and Juliet dynamic, Gryffindor and Slytherin, bridging the house divide through love. She's especially dominant in the Lord Potter and heir to multiple ancient houses subgenres. If you've spent any time on fanfic sites, you know exactly the type where Harry discovers he's heir to 4 noble bloodlines and suddenly needs a politically strategic match from the pureblood world. She's also wildly popular in the harem subgenre, where Harry, through some invented magical law called the Bloodline Legacy Continuation Act, is legally required to marry multiple witches to preserve dying noble bloodlines. Yes, this is a real and extremely popular fanfiction trope. Harry typically has to be engaged to at least 3 witches before his 17th birthday, and the most common lineup includes Hermione as first wife, with Daphne as sister wife number 1, Susan Bones as sister wife number 2, and so on. Fleur, Luna, and Tonks rounding out the magical matrimonial roster. Ridiculous? Absolutely. Is there a story on AO3 right now with over 100,000 words dedicated to this exact premise? You bet there is. Multiple, in fact. And if Daphne is popular because canon gave the fandom a blank page, the next candidate has the opposite problem. Pansy Parkinson, the one with a face like a pug, comes with far too much canon. Starting with the fact that she tried to hand Harry over to Voldemort in front of the whole school. When Voldemort demanded Harry's surrender before the Battle of Hogwarts, Pansy stood up and barked in the Great Hall and screamed for someone to grab him, and every other house rose to its feet with wands drawn pointed at her. It remains one of the most satisfying crowd moments in the series, and it makes Pansy roughly the least likely Mrs. Potter imaginable, which is exactly why the fandom loves the idea. Enemies to lovers is the engine of romance fiction, and Pansy offers the purest fuel available. A pug-faced Slytherin mean girl who spent 6 years sneering at Harry and worshipping Draco. The redemption arc fanfics give her a post-war awakening, usually a shunned Slytherin rebuilding her life while the boy who lived slowly realizes she was a terrified teenager doing what terrified teenagers do, especially when they look like pugs. Most fans don't realize Rowling openly dislikes her own creation. She has admitted that Pansy represents every girl who ever teased her at school, which goes a long way toward explaining why Pansy never got the sympathetic treatment the Malfoys did. An actual marriage here would be a diplomatic incident. The Weasleys would boycott the wedding, and Ron would need to be physically restrained during the toast. The truly disturbing detail is that Pansy would enjoy every second, because a lifetime of status-chasing ending in marriage to the most famous wizard alive is, by Slytherin standards, a flawless victory. Let's briefly address the ones we can't seriously entertain, but absolutely need to mention. Minerva McGonagall, his professor, his mentor, the woman who brought him his first broomstick. No, just no. But the fanfiction exists, guaranteed. Ugh. Molly Weasley, his surrogate mother, would turn every family dinner into a psychological horror film. Narcissa Malfoy, Draco's mother, the woman who lied to Voldemort's face to save Harry's life because she wanted to find her son, has an argument buried somewhere in there about shared sacrifice, but we're not digging it up today. And then there's Lily Potter, his actual mother, because, the internet is the internet. Time travel fanfiction exists where Harry goes back to the Marauders era, and you know what? Let's just move on. Here's what all of this comes down to. Harry Potter's love life works as a mirror. It reflects what every reader thinks love should look like. If you value intellect and partnership, you ship Hermione. If you value peace and understanding, you ship Huna. If you value passion and fire, you put Harry with Fleur. If you value the comfort of home, you stick with Harry and Ginny. If you value pure creative chaos, you write a 200,000-word epic where Harry marries 7 witches simultaneously because a goblin told him he had to. None of these answers are entirely wrong, and that's the beauty of it. Rowling built a character so fundamentally decent, so deeply shaped by love and loss, that he could plausibly find happiness with almost anyone who genuinely cares about him. The orphan who slept in a cupboard under the stairs isn't picky about love. He just wants it to be real. And that's exactly why nearly 3 decades after the first book was published, people are still arguing about who Harry Potter should have married. The question stuck around because it reveals what everyone believes love is supposed to be. Wait, 3 decades? Has it been that long? Okay, back to the script. Ginny got the ring in canon. Hermione got the author's retroactive blessing. Luna got the fans' hearts. And somewhere in a 2 million word fanfiction, Daphne Greengrass, a character with exactly 1 canonical sentence, got the most elaborate wedding the wizarding world has ever seen. Harry Potter doesn't belong to any one witch. He belongs to all of us. And we'll keep marrying him off to whoever we want, because that's what fandom does. It takes a story and says, what if? And then it writes 100,000 words answering the question. So, marrying Harry off is only half the fandom's favorite game. The other half is asking, what if Harry Potter was raised by a different family? And that's your next lesson here at Stickman Hogwarts. Click now before Pansy Parkinson points at you and starts barking.